Are you looking for all the latest pro football news and content? Of course you are. Who doesn't love football? The question is, how do you get all the latest pro football news and content? There's so many different pro football podcasts on the internet. Which one do you choose? Which one is the right fit for you? Well, you go with the Cross the Middle Show, one of the fastest growing football podcasts out right now. Over the past year, we've climbed the Spotify rankings and become a show you have to listen to if you're a football fan. Find out the Eagles will go all the way with Jalen Hurts. Find out if the Chiefs have enough to get back to the Super Bowl. You get all of our best stories for just $1 per month. All you have to do is sign up by clicking the link in the episode description box. We got two great stories for you guys today on the Cross in the Middle show. We're going to talk a little bit about the Texans. We're going to talk about the Browns too. So let's actually start with the Texans. The Texans get a convincing win over the Jaguars. And, I mean, to beat the Jaguars like that, and put it all together and clearly show that the culture is improving as far as the Texans go because of their head coach DeMeco Ryans and everything he's doing. It's obvious that the Texans are heading in the right direction and they're getting better. So that's something that they have to all hang their hat on because it's shaping up the way they like it. They'd like it to because of, just what they were able to do against the Jaguars, a team that was a playoff team a year ago and a team that has Trevor Lawrence. So it was great work by the Texans to beat them the way they did. It just shows that this Texans team is, on the right track. And if they keep building on what they've been able to establish, obviously good things are going to happen for them. I like what DeMeco Ryans has done. Obviously, his players play hard for him. There's no debating that. And, this Texans team is kind of a surprise team. I know they're not, a winning football team yet, but they beat the Jaguars convincingly. They stack a nice win to, kind of, have something to build off of. I think that's huge for them. So just great work by the Texans organization. Great work by, DeMeco Ryans and what he's been able to do. And then you look at C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud has jumped out to a lead in the Rookie of the Year race on offense. He's the top rookie on offense right now just because he looks poised back there. Has had a great start to his career. I think one thing we really have to talk about, he's done a great job of protecting the football. He's just not throwing interceptions. He's not coughing the football up. And that's helping the Texans in these games be even more competitive. So great work there by C.J. Stroud. And, you look at what he's been able to do through these first three games. The guy is showing some serious promise. There's nobody that can argue that. You're talking about a player that came out in this game against the Jaguars and immediately threw a pass down the field to Tank Dell. He had another pass deep to Tank Dell that went for a touchdown. So the big plays are there. I think Tank Dell has done a great job for this offense. He's the guy that's kind of opening things up and providing the spark with these big plays. A nice little tandem for the Texans to, build around with, C.J. Stroud and Tank Dell. Those guys are part of the nucleus now, and look at what it's done. I'm to the point where I think, every team has to have that vertical threat. They have to have a Tyreek Hill. They have to have a Tank Dell that can, get quick scores, can put, big plays up. You look at the first play that Tank Dell had that really set the tone for the game. And then later on in the game, he breaks free again and catches a touchdown. That helped, these Texans, gain some confidence and really pull away in that game against the Jaguars. It's clicking. It's clicking for the Texans. And that wasn't just like a game where they snuck by. They put it on the Jaguars a little bit. Two teams that are kind of jockeying for position in that AFC South division. So to come out there and shellac them a little bit, it's an impressive win for the Texans. Nobody thought they would be, turning the corner like they are. I thought they would be, a bottom of the barrel team. I don't think they are. I see them more as a mid-tier team now, just because it's clear they are turning the corner. It's clear that they are getting better. They have so many things that are going for him. You look at like what Will Anderson did in this game, blocks a field goal attempt, not only keeps points off the board, but does a good job of just completely swinging the momentum in this game. And, then the defense plays hard for D'Amico Ryans. I mean, everything is looking good. Everything's looking good for this Texans team. And it's only looking up from here. I think drafting C.J. Stroud and drafting Will Anderson ended up being the right moves. I think we've already got some indications that those moves were the right moves for this team. I think you can say the same thing about hiring D'Amico Ryans. So a lot of things to be celebrating right now if you're a Texans fan. And then C.J. Stroud, he's looking like the most promising rookie right now, especially out of the quarterbacks. When you look at Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, we got to call it like we see it. C.J. Stroud has jumped out to a lead a little bit, and you have to call it like you see it and just tell it like it is. I guess you should say, because he's done a great job of being a leader for this team. He sees the starting quarterback job, makes a lot of nice throws against the Jaguars, looked poised in that game again, and then, putting up the big numbers and looking like an NFL quarterback that's, near the top of the QB rankings. That's, what CJ Stroud has been able to do. So all the praise in the world for CJ Stroud, because he's been better than we thought he'd be. No doubt about that. He's been better than we thought he'd be. And it's showing on the field because the Texans are getting better. They're showing some promising results. And, they just had a big win over their AFC South rival, the Jaguars. So great work to everybody in that organization. The other game we have is the Browns game. Going into this game, there was a lot of naysayers really coming after Deshaun Watson, because everybody was wondering if the Cleveland Browns got it right when, they traded for Deshaun Watson, then paid him basically the best contract ever. People were wondering, was that the right move? Not only that, Baker Mayfield was playing really well with the Buccaneers. So people are like, should we have stayed home with, Baker Mayfield and saved all the money? And not only that, gave Baker more time because he was going through a shoulder injury. There was some serious doubts about whether the plan going forward with Deshaun Watson was the right decision. Well, fast forward to this Browns and Titans game, and it was a clapback game for Deshaun Watson. He really showed something in this game, did a good job of, just throwing the ball everywhere. I think one thing that jumps out to me is just how much Deshaun Watson and Elijah Moore are on the same page. Those two guys are, hashing out a lot of plays for this offense. And, Deshaun Watson targets more often. He's getting a lot of catches. It's, completely different than what Moore was doing with the Jets. He's incorporated in this offense, and they're funneling a lot of the offense through, Elijah Moore. So I think that trade was big for Watson, because Watson clearly trusts Elijah Moore. You can see with how many times he targets Elijah Moore, and he does a good job. Elijah Moore does a good job of, moving the chains, does a good job of sitting down, in the open field and making the catch. Just does a good job of always presenting himself to Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson is recognizing it and then distributing the football. So I really like what Deshaun Watson was able to do in this game. You look at the play to Amari Cooper, the play action play. He play actions and throws a perfect ball to Amari Cooper. I mean, that was nice. Amari Cooper takes off for the tutty. I mean, when you're having plays like that from your quarterback, it's a good sign of what's to come, because obviously after that Steelers game where Deshaun Watson couldn't do anything, and, he had the fumble that basically cost the team the game when, TJ Watt scooped up the fumble and scored a touchdown because Deshaun Watson coughed the football up. I mean, for him to bounce back like he was able to do, to have this showing against the Titans where he really showed that, okay, not only did the Browns not make a mistake by trading for me, this is what I can do. And just bombs away by Deshaun Watson. A lot of big throws. Talked about the throw to Amari Cooper. That was a real nice one. A lot of throws to Elijah Moore right around the first down marker. You're seeing that a lot. That's a thing in this offense. And then you look at what the Browns have been able to do on the defensive side of the ball with Jim Schwartz. I mean, they're really good on that side of the ball. Obviously, Jim Schwartz is a really good defensive coordinator. He's proven that, with the Eagles, now with the Browns, that he knows how to command a defense and get those guys to play. Not only that, implement the schemes that allow his defense to, take advantage of situations and, get pressure on the quarterback, get the takeaways that they need to be competitive. I mean, we're seeing those things from, Myles Garrett taking over games and just getting an insane amount of pressure on, the quarterbacks that he's going up against. We seen early on in the season when he lined up over the center, going back and forth and just kind of toying with the center before getting in the backfield. I mean, they're just cutting Myles Garrett loose and making sure they're getting the most out of him by, not just lining him up on one side of the field. They're lining him up everywhere and taking advantage of matchups and making the offense game plan for wherever he lines up at, and then adjust during the game to wherever he lines up at. And it's a lot to calculate for the offense because they got to be constantly adjusting and making sure that they're not playing into the defense's hands by going at Myles Garrett because he's so disruptive. I also like what Jerome Ford has done for this offense. You talk about Nick Chubb going down, Jerome Ford coming into the game. He had a run where he went around the left end, kind of dove into the end zone. That play right there provides a spark for the Browns, and it helps them, be energized and be on top of their game, when they're trying to compete and get it done. This past week it was against the Titans, but, whoever it's going to be, in the up and coming weeks, that's how, you get it done. You get plays from guys like Jerome Ford who are waiting for their number to be called. And then, when Nick Chubb goes down because he gets hit by Minkah Fitzpatrick, well, now, Jerome Ford is ready to go. He's making big plays for the Browns offense, kind of giving them something on the ground to the point where their running game hasn't vanished. They also brought in Kareem Hunt too, brought back Kareem Hunt. So that's what we're seeing as far as the Browns go, and it's starting to look promising. They're starting to shape up into a good team. I like their offense with Kevin Stefanski and just how, they're pulling a lot of guards and doing a lot of misdirection, and there's just a lot you have to account for. Then you have, Deshaun Watson getting better and coming into his own and starting to get it back. He's knocking off the rust from being out of football for so long. It looks like he's starting to finally put it all together and look like the quarterback that he was. And when he's on like that and throwing the football everywhere and playing, with an upbeat attitude, and you could see how, his teammates feed off that because, he's playing at a high level and he's feeling it. And obviously, when your quarterback has it going on, things tend to work in the National Football League. That's what we saw this past weekend for the Browns. And, really it's a football team that is definitely getting better, just like the Texans. They're both improving. The Cleveland Browns are a winner right now. The Texans are still, behind the eight ball a little bit, but trying to figure it out and trying to, get back to having a winning football team themselves. But for the Browns, they're already there. They're going to try to keep building. They look like a team that's capable of going to the playoffs. And, Deshaun Watson, if he plays like he did against the Titans, then the Browns could honestly, surprise some people and go on a run. Remember how competitive they were in the playoffs that one year. They have the makings there of a team that can do something. You add Jim Schwartz to the mix and the defense he brings. You add Myles Garrett and him being kind of unleashed in a whole bunch of different positions and spots on the field. You have Deshaun Watson starting to heat up. You have Jerome Ford stepping in and showing that, hey, I can keep this thing afloat with Nick Chubb out of the picture. you can see why, the Browns are starting to get it going. And like I said, they look like a team that is certainly capable of making the playoffs. That's all I got for this latest episode of the Cross the Middle Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm John Kuzma. Sign up for $1 per month by clicking the link in the episode description box. That's all I got for this latest episode.